Williamson from Fresh. I love connecting with people, love doing stuff like this. So please feel free to reach out either on LinkedIn or jump on fresh.xyz and say hey to us. We've got a lot coming up. We've got, I think, 7 companies this morning, and then a short break followed by the afternoon session. First up, we've got Dundas Minerals. And Dundas Minerals holds a 1,200 square kilometre tenement position in the highly prospective Albany-Fraser origin, home to the magnificently rich Nova nickel and Tropicana gold mines. Having listed just last year on the ASX in November, by applying the latest geophysical survey techniques, Dundas has rapidly identified a strong pipeline of compelling drilling targets, which is set to be tested later this year. Shane Volk's going to come and talk to us a bit more. Shane.
In Western Australia, between the Yilgarn Craton and the Eucla Basin, sits the Albany-Fraser origin. Stretching from the edge of the Great Victoria Desert to Albany in the state southwest, much of the origin remains underexplored. Gradually, however, the Albany-Fraser has been revealing its closely guarded mineral wealth. In 2005, discovery of the multi-million-ounce Tropicana gold deposit thrust the origin into the international spotlight. And then in 2012, the incredibly rich Nova nickel deposit was found. Now, a decade later, Dundas Minerals has commenced the search for the next company making discovery in the Albany-Fraser. Dundas holds 12 contiguous licenses in an area not explored since before the world-class Nova discovery. This is 1,200 square kilometres of highly prospective tenements. Dundas is already narrowing down the search space and identifying priority drilling locations, using best practice geoscience and cutting-edge technology that was not available to previous explorers. Dundas Minerals is in an enviable position for exploration success. You can join the search. Become a shareholder. Dundas Minerals. Be part of the discovery.
Thank you. So up on the screen in the mauve colour is our fabulous 1,200 square kilometre tenement package in the Albany-Fraser. We're about 140 kilometres south of the multi-billion-dollar Nova nickel deposit and around 140 kilometres to the northeast of the port city of Esperance in Western Australia. And as we saw in the video, this area of the Albany-Fraser has not been subject to any exploration since before the Nova nickel copper deposit was discovered in 2012. So just looking at the regional geology, and the regional geology is fundamental to Dundas's exploration program and what we're doing. We're at a fascinating area. We have the older rocks, 2600 MA rocks of the sort of reworked Archean coming down, and collision point with the younger Proterozoic age rocks, 1600. The Archean rocks around the same age as the Nova, as the Tropicana deposit, and the younger Proterozoic around the same age as Nova. And it's in these zones of contact that you tend to find these large, intrusive type nickel deposits, as we see in Canada in the Thompson Belt, which is exactly the same sort of terrain. Just looking now, zooming into the area that we're exploring in, the images up on your left show the type of country we're working in. Sand covered, mallee is the predominant vegetation, although interestingly enough, a few years back, very large bushfires went through the Esperance area and cleared a lot of that mallee vegetation. It's now regrowing, but it's enabled us great access into the tenement areas. The cover, it's not so deep, it's about 5 to 30 metres, but we're faced by the challenge of most explorers now, today, in we're searching for deposits undercover. The deposits that are sticking out of the ground fundamentally have mostly been discovered, so we're working undercover. And although it might sound daunting, how do you find these mineral deposits covered in sand, covered in calcrete? There's been some tremendous success over the years at finding spectacular deposits that weren't sort of thought to really exist. And we could really start with Sandfire's discovery of Ducler way back in 2010. Nova then followed shortly after 2012, an undercover deposit that was a real surprise to everybody. And hopefully some of you here have had shares in Chalice. And Chalice had a fabulous discovery just out of Perth, the Julimar discovery, and again, undercover. So what do you do to find these deposits? What are we doing in our area? Well, fundamentally, you do what works in the terrain you're exploring in. And we are very fortunate at Dundas that we're coming into the Albany Fraser and we can observe what other explorers have done, predominantly just to our north, the likes of the Creasy Group, the likes of Independence Group, and there's several others, Galileo there. And as much as it's what you do, it's what you don't do. So what doesn't work? What's proven not to have been a success? And largely putting in grids of shallow air core drilling, where you're drilling down to basement 20, 30, 40 metres, sampling there, looking, seeing that represents what's below. That hasn't delivered really any great exploration success. Nor has calcrete sampling the layer just below the soil. That hasn't really worked, nor has soil sampling, except for in some areas. So what do? What has been successful is geophysics. So multiple data sets of geophysics. And starting at the project level, working down to the prospect level, working down to the target level. And then at the end of the day, the ultimate test, as we all know in exploration, the ultimate test is drilling out the targets. So that's the process we've been following at Dundas. And we really started way back before we listed. We listed in November 2021. We had some fabulous pre-IPO shareholders or seed shareholders. Some of them are here today, very supportive, enabled us to do an airborne SkyTEM survey. So we're looking for undercover conductors. So we did that work in September. We followed up very closely with the whole project we covered in detailed gravity, 1 kilometre space lines, 250 metre space station. So we had a tremendous gravity map of the area, first time ever. And again, we were able to do that because the vegetation had been cleared by fire. 2 zones of dense gravity anomalous rocks appeared, Zone 1, Matilda South, Zone 2, up in the northeast prospect area. Immediately, we remobilised the gravity crew back to site. They did a detailed infill gravity survey down at Matilda South, 250 metre spaced lines, very close 100 metre space stations, and we got tremendous resolution on what was under the cover at Matilda South. In January this year, we followed with a detailed survey at Northeast, and again, tremendous resolution at what's undercover at Northeast. And these are our 2 focus areas at the moment. Detailed magnetics are really important, and we've just employed a geologist at Dundas that spent 4 years working with the Creasy Group up in the Albany Fraser, just up to the north of us. And he's emphasised how important it is. Magnetics is so important to discovering these nickel deposits, and he was involved in the discovery of silvernite with the Creasy Group. 100 metre space magnetics across the whole tenement package now. The area in the middle, we already had detailed magnetics. We've now filled the whole package with detailed magnetics. And most importantly, we've just finished an audio magnetotelluric or AMT survey across both the Matilda South and the Central Prospect, and we just completed that in March. And what that survey is doing is it's looking down up to 1 kilometre into these dense rocks, and it's looking for areas of conductivity, or in this case resistivity, and the inverse of that is conductivity. It's looking for low resistivity, and these are the areas that we're going to target with our drilling. So tremendous and exciting early success both at Matilda South and at Central. But if we look at Central first, we shot 2 AMT lines across Central, and on the right-hand side there you can see these very, very low resistivity areas within those packages, and highly conductive, and we're very keen. These are our first drill targets in this area. We're confident that these are either one of 2 things, and this is a chart of the physical properties of resistivity values. So it's either going to be, sulfides, massive sulfides, or perhaps graphite, unlikely at that depth to be salt water. So these are the only type of physical properties that are given off by these very low resistivity values from the survey. Central's an interesting area. There's been no historic on-ground exploration at all at this central prospect. BHP were doing some soil sampling. They came within 4 kilometres. This is in the 90s. But what's fascinating is the ground was held by a company called Norseman Gold PLC in 2009 to 12. They engaged an international geological consulting firm, CSA Global, to do a review of their tenements. CSA Global recommended this specific area for Norseman Gold to focus on, to do a priority 1 drilling program in 2010-11. Norseman Gold put the roads in, they put the drill lines in, they had their air core program approved by the Department of Mines. Then those of you who understand the history of Norseman Gold will know that it went into voluntary administration in 2012. The program was never completed. 10 years later, completely independently, completely different data sets, we've landed on exactly the same area. So for us, great access, the roads, the tracks are put in, the drill lines are even put in, and some of the holes we can drill actually off the roads that Norseman Gold put in. So and this is, we often see this in the exploration industry. It's the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th tenement holder that makes a discovery. Moving to the south now, down to Matilda South. This is a big mafic, ultramafic intrusion modelled up by our geophysicist, Steve Massey. We shot 3 AMT lines across here, and the results, again, were really more than we expected. So we're seeing resistivity anomalies here. This time we're seeing them on the edge of the intrusive body, which is typical of where you might look for mineralisation on these type of intrusives. This is what Matilda South looks like in 3 dimensions. A big, as I said, mafic, ultramafic intrusion, very dense rocks. Now, we've just got news on Thursday, $180,000 from the Western Australian Government to co-fund the drilling at Matilda South. And this is the first real third-party endorsement that we've received on the prospectivity of this intrusive, which we're really excited about. So we'll move to drilling that as quickly as possible. Matilda South Central, but we've also got a very rich pipeline of mafic, ultramafic intrusions, and that's indicative of the sort of terrain we're searching in. And Steve Massey has identified a whole number, who's a geophysicist of these. So these will populate our pipeline of exploration. Of course, we're hoping for immediate success at the central target and at Matilda South. Interestingly enough, the Curie geologist, Tim, when he came and worked with us, the first thing he observed is the item in blue, which we've circled there, yellow, which we've circled there, which is a magnetic eye type feature, very similar in his view to the sort of things they saw both at Nova in the original discovery and also a bit later on at the Silver Knight. So we're keen to get up and have a look at that area as well. So what next? No surprise, it's all about drilling. So we're moving through the permitting process at the moment. We hope to be on the ground with the rigs late July, early August. The area of Western Australia we're working does get subject to cold fronts coming through, so we need to monitor the rain as to when we can get in and out, but that's the target at the moment. And also to move up into our northeast prospect area and continue to work up there and move up towards that I-type feature as well and see what we can see on the ground up there. So so what does exploration success for investors in junior companies look like? What can it look like? Well, this is a bit cheeky. We talked about, the Sandfire discovery. We talked about the Sirius discovery, and we talked about the Chalice discovery. But what you often see as a junior shareholder, you'll see months, years maybe of the share price bubbling along at a consistent price. Then without warning, without any sort of warning, the share price goes from cents to tens to 20s to dollars, then to tens of dollars sometimes. And if you're brave enough to put your shareholding in the bottom drawer and just pull it out once every 6 months, you could find it going from 30 to 40 times its value. And this is actually why a lot of us invest in junior exploration companies. The capital structure at Dundas, only 60 million shares on issued because we're newly listed. Our shareholders received a free option, one free option for every 2 shares they held. So we do have options on the ASX as well, about 30 million. And we've grown our shareholder base already from around that 450 mark, and we're now approaching 700. So we're starting to get good support and good recognition for what we're doing, and market cap of around $10 million. This is a management team. Most of us have spent our whole career in the mining and exploration business, and Marc, our chairman, has tremendous finance and governance experience. So we've got the right tight-knit team to move Dundas to where it needs to go, and you can read more about that on our website. So just follow us. It'd be great to have you as part of the search in the Albany Fraser origin. It'd be great to have you as a shareholder, and it'd be great to have you as part of the discovery. So thank you very much.
And you've got a booth out there today, so come visit if you've got any other questions to follow up. Yeah, perfect. And so for the next few sessions, what we've got is we've got a couple of lithium companies, and then followed by a bit more focus on gold, copper, and zinc. And the first lithium company is Morella Corporation, who are obviously ASX listed and focused on lithium raw materials. Morella is currently engaged in exploration activities with projects strategically located in Tier 1 jurisdictions in both Australia and the US. With an unprecedented growth in lithium demand and multiple project opportunities, Morella is well placed to support the surging demand for battery minerals, critical in enabling the global transition to green energy. Here to tell us more is their Chief Executive, Mr. Alex Cheeseman. It's
not my timer up already, I hope. Look, everyone, great to be here. Coming from Perth, it is actually really great to be able to come to Sydney and be here in person. I've gone through this presentation a few times. I've run over time every time, so I'm going to go through things pretty quickly. It is fairly high level. As it said, provide a bit of a corporate and a project update. We've got a booth right down the end of the hallway opposite the coffee cart, so happy to take any questions and any detailed follow-up at any time. The presentation has also been released on the ASX platform and our website this morning, so available for anyone to go through in detail at your leisure. So this slide was quite interesting. I had to update it as recently as last night. And when I started putting the presentation together, probably at the beginning of March, I had all my figures in there. It was all looking pretty good. And then I realised as I was finalising it that so many things had changed, and the numbers, the planned pipeline of capacity, the growth of the market had moved on so much in the last 6 weeks that it was already outdated. It's great because what it means is it shows that the massive appetite of the industry and so much activity happening downstream. And there's probably 2 key things that I draw out from this. In terms of the battery demand, forecasts at the moment, and every analyst has their own view, but Benchmark are forecasting by 2030 that the global demand in terms of battery gigafactory capacity will be 6 terawatt hours. The interesting thing from that is that requires 5 million tonnes lithium carbonate equivalent annually to keep production going. Now, the global production of lithium last year was about just under 500,000 tonnes. So in terms of installed capacity from the battery plants, there's a significant pipeline of growth required from a raw materials side. The other slide that, I suppose, image that I like to look at is the chart in the top right-hand corner. It's deliberately dated. It came out late last year. And again, what you'll see if you actually have a look at the numbers is the projections and the forecasts that Benchmark put out 6 months ago and have now doubled in the last 3 to 4 months. And interestingly, what they're showing there is current production, then planned production likely to come online in terms of idle capacity or projects that are going to be turned back on or planned expansions. They're also including likely projects and then possible projects. So there's a number of things on here that just assume that project delivery risk is gone and that every project is going to come online successfully. And we know that that won't happen. I suppose taking a sort of a macro level view, again, a couple of interesting quotes here. I like to quote the president of the US because I find it interesting that he is personally getting involved in talking about lithium and the US domestic supply chain and the US's focus and desire to build out localized supply. That's important for us because we've got a project in the US. The other one that obviously I think really resonates with me is the $500 billion of investment by auto manufacturers to build out their EV production facilities. It's a really large number. And I don't think people quite understand the significance of the investment that's happening downstream versus what has been a fairly small investment in the raw material side. Tesla, everyone likes to talk about Tesla if you're involved in lithium. I put them there really as a sort of a snapshot to show Tesla's demand growth in context to current production. It's, again, significant. They've got a significant demand. Tesla are very active engaging with raw material suppliers. They're securing offtake supply now with emerging producers and a couple of current producers. So my real question is, what is every other auto OEM going to do? Because Tesla are getting involved now and others are probably sitting still a little bit too far back. From a corporate snapshot perspective, our corporate thematic, and again, I'll run through this quite a few times, lithium focused. The team, everyone we've got have been involved in lithium projects before. We're a delivery focused exploration company. We've done it before. We know how to bring projects online. The board have got significant experience in delivering multi-commodity projects globally. And that's our real focus. We want to get on, advance our project and bring material into market. In terms of the board of management, I again touched on that briefly before. James Brown, our managing director, and Eric Kiley, they're here with me this week. So all of us available in the booth to have a chat about any part of the company or the industry that you're interested in talking about. I think what's also worth noting, we've all worked together before, so we're a pretty close-knit team. There's a lot of trust and understanding of how everyone operates. Steve Barber, very experienced as a hard rock geologist, has defined JORC resources in the Pilbara for lithium before. Duncan Story, as a contractor, is new to us, but we targeted Duncan to bring him on board because of his lithium brine experience in South America, and he's helping us with our project in Nevada. So in terms of our projects, West Australia hard rock, for a very deliberate reason, and then Nevada with a US lithium brine project. So the project portfolio in Western Australia is all ground that is held by and tenements held by Sayona. We have an earning agreement with Sayona to conduct work, exploration effort, advance the projects, and earn an interest into what would then be a joint venture with Sayona to further develop the projects. Two key tenements that we're sort of focused on at the moment, the Mallina lithium project, we're drilling at the moment. The program started in late March, and Mount Eden, which is probably a little earlier stages. Mallina's up in the north in the Pilbara, an area we know exceptionally well. Mount Eden is inland from Geraldton. Again, both project areas serviced by roads, infrastructure, communications are in place, well-proven areas for exploration and developing mining operations. In terms of Nevada, Fish Lake Valley and the Fish Lake Valley Lithium Project is our project of interest in Nevada. There's a lot of activity happening in Nevada. Clayton Valley is the opposite side of the ridgeline to Fish Lake Valley. We find ourselves quite fortunately relatively isolated in Fish Lake Valley, so we've taken the opportunity to increase our footprint. We have got 44 square kilometres of land in Fish Lake Valley. That was we recently acquired essentially all of the ground from the east to west of the valley floor and north to south. So a huge parcel of land. That growth wasn't just land grabbing for the sake of it. The opportunity to secure more land came out of our understanding from some geophysics work that we were doing sort of December into January. I mentioned this in the presentation a few times, and we talk about sort of tier 1 jurisdiction. So I think it's just worth sort of providing a bit of detail as to what we think tier 1 means to us. There's a number of key things that give us comfort in why we're looking at these specific locations. So I think the first one, you know, living in Australia and living in a stable democratic environment, we probably take for granted a little bit. But having projects that are located in nice, stable, no sovereign risk jurisdictions is a big driver for us. You know, we've seen that there's a lot of issues around the world at the moment, whether it be in Africa, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in South America. They're just jurisdictions that we're not comfortable in going and working with. We want to work in areas where we know there's a nice, clear, pragmatic way to manage the ground, advance the projects, and ensure that that investment into the projects isn't going to be pulled out from underneath us. Mining friendly regions, obviously the Pilbara and Western Australia is about as mining friendly as you get. It's the sort of backbone of West Australian economy. And a huge part of West Australian life. Nevada is quite interesting in its sense that what we've seen in the US is that state by state, sort of even county by county, there are different views on appetite for mining as an industry. We're very fortunate that Nevada itself has a long history of mining, and what we've seen in terms of engaging with the Bureau of Land Management, very clear protocols on how to stake claims, run through their process, manage the land, manage water rights, and there isn't sort of localised resistance to mining. It's very common in Nevada, which is great. Proven jurisdiction for lithium exploration and lithium operations. Again, we've targeted areas that are known to have found large lithium deposits, areas that have been able to bring lithium operations into production and sustain production. Nevada, Silver Peak operation owned by Albemarle. It's the only in-country source of lithium production at the moment, about 30 kilometres from where we are at Fish Lake. Strategic alignment between governments. I suppose we haven't, as an exploration company, haven't seen or felt the impact of this yet, but it's very clear that between Australia and US, there is agreed cooperation over critical minerals. Lithium forms part of that. I'll be going to the US in a couple of weeks and really trying to understand what this means as an Australian exploration company with a US-based subsidiary looking to develop US supply chain. I'm sure the strategic cooperation between the governments can only be a good thing for us. And clear path to market. Again, it goes back to the point that I made at the start. We're delivery focused. Our intention here is to explore, prove up a resource. If it's commercially viable, go through the steps that we've gone through before to bring it in production and supply material into a market that is desperate for it. So having a very clear physical path to market and access to export ports or major highways and distribution networks, all the infrastructure is already in place with both locations. I'm not sure how I'm going for time. So, sorry, I've got time. Excellent, great. So the Malin Lithium Project, again, probably presenting as our flagship at the moment because it's where we're putting the most amount of our sort of time, effort, and resources right now. As I said, a drilling program started at the end of March. We're currently, I suppose 2-3 weeks into that program. It was a greenfield site in terms of sort of from us for exploration. So we've had to move in, establish a camp. That was all done at the back end of March. Drill rigs started arriving, I think around the 12th of April. 2 rigs on site. We had RC collars and then that work's been completed. And now we're following with diamond core tails. So a lot of previous historical work done at Malina by Sayona and also by Altura. Drilling work, soil sampling, mapping, study work. There's nothing outcropping at Malin. It's very flat. And the intercepts that we're seeing, the thesis was that they were drawing from primary pegmatites at depth. And that's what we're seeking to try and intersect with this program. So 3 holes, 450 metres each, very targeted, very deliberate, trying to intercept and find that primary pegmatite at depth. Obviously, we're exploring in Western Australia. We'll get the physical work done. It's going to be some time before we get lab results back, but we'll just keep pushing along as much as we can. Where do we go on the basis of we intercept what we need and what are the next steps? We move straight in to planning a sort of a resource definition program, trying to prove up and look at the commercial scale and commercial viability of anything that we find at Malina. Mount Eden, probably a little bit early stage, and the interest here is capture a pipeline of projects at various stages. So we've always got a lot of work, a lot of activity happening. There's been some historical work done by Sayona. They've confirmed lithium mineralisation, so we know it's worth having a look at. Some desktop studies and sort of port logistics reviews. It's not an area that we were completely familiar with. It's very it presents as a very viable opportunity to conduct extra work. We commissioned a small field program, mapping and sampling, that was completed at the end of March. We're waiting for the final report and obviously waiting for assay results to see where we go from there. But as an interesting proposition, from an exploration point of view, we can probably offset Pilbara tropical sort of weather campaign seasons ending and then capture a rig as it's coming back down south at the back end of the year. So looking forward to seeing what we can do there. Got 1 minute to talk about probably what I think is our most exciting project. Fish Lake Valley, a lot of work's been done, relatively shallow, I think was our assessment. We looked at this as a brines deposit, something we weren't completely familiar with. Let's go back to first principles. A lot of geophysics work, passive seismic survey, an MT survey. The passive seismic and MT combined has allowed us to develop an understanding of the subsurface structure and then identify areas of high resistivity, higher salinity, higher concentration of mineralisation. We come out to the market probably 2 weeks ago with confirmed drilling targets at Fish Lake Valley, and that's the program that we are now working through from a contractor engagement, then permitting point of view, and we hope to be on the ground at probably the back end of the US summer. In summary, I'm not going to talk to this slide because I think my time's up, but a lithium-focused company, proven delivery experience. We're focused on advancing our projects and bringing material into the market. And we think it's an exceptional time to be involved in lithium. So thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions throughout the day at the booth.
Thanks very much, Alex. And to continue the lithium trend, we've now got Marc from Bulletin Resources. Bulletin Resources, as you'll see, is very well funded, an explorer that's got a great opportunity to capitalise on the booming lithium market, and with their recent discovery of a spodumene-bearing pegmatites near Ravensthorpe. Trying to trick me out there, Marc, I think. Marc is here to give us an update about that Ravensthorpe lithium project. So if you'd like to welcome Marc to the stage and we can hear more.
Greenies go, way to go. Thanks for that. Welcome everybody, and for those online as well. I'm just starting with a slide here of spodumene. It's a rock that we've got on our desk in the booth here. You're welcome to come and have a grab of it if you haven't actually had a taste of what spodumene looks like. It's from our Ravensthorpe project, and that's the main focus of what I'm talking about today. But before I start, I'll just give a brief snapshot of Bulletin for those who aren't familiar with us. We're listed on the ASX with the ticker code of BNR. We're a well-funded lithium and gold explorer with cash shares and receivables of nearly $12 million. Our current market cap is 55 million, thereabouts, and we have 290 million shares on issue with 771 million listed options out there, which expire in 2024, and they're all currently in the money. We've got a really experienced board, and they have a proven ability to reward the shareholders. Back in 2016, when we sold a 20% share in our gold mine for $20 million, we redistributed $13 million back to shareholders at 8 cents a share when the share price was 3 cents. So they do have a track record of rewarding shareholders. And it's something we look forward to going in the future as well. So talking about our Ravensthorpe lithium project, for those who aren't aware it is, it's only 12 kilometres from the Mount Cattlin lithium mine. We started off with 56 square kilometres and we've recently expanded to 130 square kilometres with the purchase of 2 tenements currently underway through a due diligence project. And the ground that we've picked up is long strike and it's got the same geology as the Mount Cattlin lithium mine. It's a little bit of historical exploration further to the western side of the part, but we've been focusing on the eastern side, and that's what I'll be talking about. We've been on ground We just started going on ground late last year and early this year, so we're still fairly new on ground. And the reason we're so enamored with this project is because we've got a mine just down the road. Just a bit of background, Mount Cattlin mines between 1.5 to 2 million tonne per year. Their current mine life is 2025. They've just announced that they're going to do a bit more drilling to extend the project to try to see if they get to 2027, but there's certainly an opportunity for us going forward with that mine as a feed going forward. So what are we looking for on our ground? I've got a cross section here of Mount Cattlin for you of one of their holes. The geology, and these are the things that we're looking for on our ground. So a couple of things to note for them is that not all the pegmatites outcrop on surface. There's a little bit of outcrop, but most of the pegmatites are buried under cover. They've got spodumene bearing pegmatites and with a little bit of lepidolite to the northeast of their project area. Their pegmatites dip gently. There's numerous amounts of pegmatites. They're stacked one on top of each other. And they've got variable thicknesses. They pinch and swell. Up at Mount Cattlin, they go anywhere from 2 to 20 metres thick. So that's what we're looking for. And what have we got so far? So far, we've got off to a pretty good start, we believe. We've found high-grade spodumene rock chips in our samples. We saw a picture at the start of the slide. We're seeing spodumene grades up to 7% or just over. And what that's good for us, it just indicates that the spodumene's of good quality and nice and coarse. Our highest grade sample is actually in a malignite sample, which is common in the pegmatites in the Mount Cattlin area. And where we've been focusing is what we're calling the Eastern Pegmatite Trend. It's a 4-kilometre length so far that we've seen pegmatites. It's still open to the north. We found about 100 pegmatites so far in that area. We've still got more work to do. In the central part of that slide, I'll just zoom in where we've been finding most of the spodumene and the better grade samples. It's an area we're calling big pegmatite. Big pegmatite is not one pegmatite, it's a swarm of pegmatites. It's about 40 stacked pegmatites from our mapping that we've seen in outcrop so far. So what we've seen is they're up to about 200 metres in width. We think they go undercover. It's a bit hard to tell in some places. We'll test it further on. The pegmatites are up to 10 metres in thickness, what we've seen, and they dip very gently from less than 10 degrees to 30 degrees, all to the southwest, or all into our tenement. Just some examples of the spodumene that we're seeing on the ground. The spodumene is quite variable. We're seeing anything from weathered spodumene. We're seeing fresh spodumene. We're seeing some that's a bit altered. In other outcrops, we're seeing spodumene that's with clevelandite and quartz, which is other minerals within the pegmatite system, and they're all typical of the pegmatites that we see up at Mount Cattlin as well. So we're very encouraged that what we're seeing is very similar to what Mount Cattlin was seeing. 2 kilometres further north of the slides I just showed you, we've still got other pegmatite outcrops with spodumene as well. So we've seen quite a few, along the length of the Eastern Trend, we've seen quite a few outcrops of spodumene-bearing pegmatite, which all need to be tested. And just near that last slide at Creek, we're also seeing another example of weathered spodumene with a little bit of lepidolite. Just like at Mount Cattlin, where they have spodumene in the main zone and lepidolite to the northeast, we're seeing the same sort of trends. We also have a western trend just to about 3 kilometres to the west. This was where most of the historical work was done by Lithium Australia previously. The western trend from our work is showing similar things as the previous work. It's lepidolite focused rather than spodumene. Seeing great grades for lepidolite, but our focus is on spodumene. We'll keep on working on that trend as a longer term focus. As the market goes up and we're all short, lepidolite's bound to become a mineral of interest. But in the short term, we'll be focusing on the eastern trend where we've seen spodumene, just because Mount Cattlin's just down the road for us. So what's next for us? Our focus, we've got a drill plan program ready for big pegmatite. And the reason we're focusing there just because of the size, commercial aspects that we're looking for going forward, and also that's spodumene bearing. We're currently working through our approval programs. We are in an area that's got quite a bit of vegetation in there. So conversations with the department are that we have to do a native vegetation clearing permit, which involves surveys of flora and fauna and heritage surveys. That work, we're expecting that work to be, those approvals to come through later in the year. The surveys for us, we're expecting will be early spring, so probably September surveys. We're expecting to get approvals later in the year thereafter that. and hopefully be drilling by the end of the year. I just want to put up a quick slide here of what Mount Catlin looked like before it started mining. That yellow line is the outline of the resource before they started. If you remember back at the early slides where I showed there were some pigmatites that were outcropping, but most were buried. We're believing everything else being the same, we'll see the same situation here. So hopefully we'll have something that approaches the size of Mount Catlin as we go forward. But while we're waiting for the approval processes, and we're very keen to drill, we'll keep on working, looking at the pigmatites along strike. We'll keep on mapping to the north. We're still open on 4 kilometres of strike to the north. We're still open. And we've still got to complete the due diligence on those tenements that we've just purchased. I'll change focus a bit. While we're waiting for those permits to come through, we're still working on our other projects. Our Lake Rebecca gold project's been a great project for us. It's 150 kilometres east of Kalgoorlie in an area that's known to have large, low-grade gold deposits. We're right on the boundary of one of those, and that's now Ramelius's gold project, which they purchased off Apollo earlier last year for 182 million. Our ground is right on the boundary of Apollo. In fact, last year we sold a 1.35 square kilometre piece of ground, or 400 metre strip of ground for $5 million in shares. And our drilling has shown that the trend extends into our ground. We've seen the same wide zones of anomalous gold mineralisation. And the drilling that we've been doing is very similar to the drilling we had just south of the ground that we sold to Apollo back in the day, and now Ramelius. So we're seeing grades of 2 at 5.8 and 2 at 0.7. So it's a great little target that we still need to keep on pushing it forward. But also more broadly in the wider scheme, we've got 600 square kilometres of ground in the area. And we're using the Rebecca model as an exploration model, just like at Mount Catlin, we're using Mount Catlin as the exploration model. We've got the same ground as the Rebecca deposit. This year, over last year, sorry, we did a large air core drilling program, both on the lake and on land. And we've seen extensive anomalism in the regolith or in the weathered material, very similar to the anomalisms they saw at Duke and Duchess and at Rebecca further to the south. We applied for a bit of co-funding from the department in the competitive scheme. They liked what they saw, and they've approved a program for us to start drilling. And as soon as we can get a late drill rig, we'll be on the ground there drilling. Just to the south, we have a Chifley gold project. It's on the Claypan fault zone, just 20 kilometres south of Breaker Resources 1.7 million ounce deposit. It's on display on the same shear. We started doing some work on the area of a soil program over the whole tenement. And to the south of there, we found a 2 kilometre long gold and copper anomaly. And the encouragement for that, for us, is that at Rebecca, chalcopyrite or copper bearing minerals are also associated with the gold mineralisation. So we feel like we've got a system that may be similar to the Rebecca, large and low grade. As well as our on-ground work, we have a royalty, which has given us quite a bit of money over the time, 2.5 million to date. We've got a fairly substantial royalty over the gold mine in Coolgardie, sorry. That last year, they had a bit of a wall slip and stopped production for a short period of time, but we announced even this morning that the quarterly payments have resumed again. So we're expecting to see ongoing royalties, which helps us going forward with our funding. Looking to the future, we do have an extensive portfolio of tenement applications. We've been quite aggressive looking for projects that are near existing mines or near roads or near infrastructure as a commercial strategy. I'll just talk about one just quickly here, and that's the Mount Farmer lithium deposit. We picked this up initially because it was just next door to Dalgaranga gold mine, just to the south of us. But Aldoro Resources have a small little 1 square block of ground in the middle of, all surrounded by us, which they've been drilling recently. It's the niobium rubidium project. They just finished doing their drilling and they're hoping to release a resource statement soon. So we own all the ground around it, and we own the ground that is along strike of it. It's still in application, but it's certainly an interesting project for us to move forward. So that's a quick summary of Bulletin for you. We believe we're a strong investment case. We've got early stage exposure to lithium. We've got a strong cash balance. We're not looking to go out and dilute ourselves. We've got enough money to go forward with all our programs. And we're always actively seeking opportunities to add value. We've shown that we can add value to our projects and we can reward shareholders. And I invite you all to come to the booth after this and have a chat. We'd love to have a chat with you, and we'd love to see you as a shareholder. So thank you very much.
All right, and actually a really good segue from there from lithium to gold for us as well in the middle, which is great. So we'll continue that on. Here to tell us about the exciting portfolio in Chile's Lower Atacama region is Ross Landles from Bastion Minerals as the executive chairman. Bastion's strategy is to apply cutting-edge exploration to make discoveries on its highly prospective projects, which have had no modern exploration and are surrounded by significant mines currently producing high-grade gold and copper. Welcome to the stage, Ross. Oh, and just quick update. I just got told there's about 250 to 300 people tuning in online. So hello to everyone online, and let's get going.
Thank you, Ben. Just as a bit of a correction, I'm not Ross Landles, I'm Andrew Stewart, but I'm a non-executive technical director for Bastion, and I'll be giving the presentation today. So this is a new project. This is a new company listed a little under 12 months ago, and it's a very good opportunity. We have a fantastic portfolio of assets in the very mineral-rich Atacama region of Chile, and we'll step through those projects. I'll talk through what gets us excited about these projects in Chile. Disclaimer, but just some background, Bastion, these projects, when we look at Chile, Chile's a very mature terrain for exploration and mining. We all know about it. It's got some of the world's biggest copper mines, certainly some of the biggest gold mines. And it's often been the area of major companies interacting. And one thing we've noticed about Chile is it's lacked a lot of the smaller exploration. Many of these gold projects, these sort of 1 to 2, 3 million ounces, have kind of been put aside by the major companies, ignored. And this is really the opportunity for us to come in. We're focused on grade. We're focused on finding projects you can actually develop. We've been able to put together a very strategic position in one of the mineral-rich regions of the Atacama. We've got a very a portfolio of high-quality assets here, and we'll step through those. We're all about exploration. As a background, I'm an exploration geologist, been involved for 20 years, multiple discoveries, and Bastion's about leveraging to that discovery upside, and that's really the uplift you want to get. That's the front end of the mining cycle, and it's that exploration. We're focused on Chile. This is the opportunity. This is one of the premier mineral belts in the world, and as I said, we've put together a very good team in country, and a management team here in Australia that has a track record of discoveries and a track record of growth and a proven board. So putting the right ingredients together, people are very important, projects and understanding what you're doing. So just a bit of an overview, 79 million to 74 million shares on offer, share price at 19 cents, got a market cap of 14 million. It's very important to have a tight register in these smaller companies. And this is a company, shares are very tightly held, mostly by directors with over 25%. The top 20 shareholders, over 50% of the register. We've got skin in the game here as a board and as management, very focused on delivering value, and we tend to keep it that way. We look at some of these companies with very large registers now, a lot of shares on offer. It's very hard for them to move forward, and we're very focused on keeping that register tight, and that's about having that ownership of it. So as I said, focused on Chile. We've got 3 major projects. We've got the Garin project located in the north, just a little bit to the east of Copiapó, our Capote flagship project north of Vallenar, and our Cometa project in the south, which is a copper project. So all these systems are outcropping. The opportunity here is really about these districts haven't seen any modern exploration, which is quite remarkable. When we go to these projects, these are projects that were mines up to the 1950s, but they haven't seen a drill hole. And as we step through this, you'll see that some of these districts were significant gold producing districts. And that's very important. And that's been our focus, as these projects have sort of fallen off the radar, and our opportunity has come along, apply modern techniques and see what's there. So as I said, we put together a very good land package of 88 square kilometres. We're close to major projects. The beauty of this area is that we're at low altitude. We're not in the high Andes. A little over 1,000 metres is the maximum. Projects are close to major cities, close to major mines. And that, why is that advantage? It gives you a low capital intensive development of these projects. You have infrastructure, you have all the benefits of those sorts of things. So we're not working in a remote part of the world. I'll start talking about Capote. That's very much our flagship project, an amazing gold district. up into the 1950s, you know, the records here suggest that this district produced 1 million ounces of, you know, close to 40 grams of gold, 40 grams per tonne. So a very high grade system. As I said, very historically, it's a large area. We've been able to consolidate the whole district. Very important in this industry that when you have these veins, they extend over several square kilometres, you control them. No point having a discovery and, you know, having a postage stamp and not being able to control the district. And that's what we do here. The exploration to date, we've completed some high quality geophysics across the area, extensive rock chipping. You know, these veins range from 1 metre to 5 metres wide, stretch over kilometres. We have seen some historical mining there. Good gold rock chips at surface, up to 64 grams in grab samples. And we're in the final stages of environmental approval. So looking to put some drill rigs onto this project coming towards the end of this month. So this is going to be the real catalyst for value we see in this uplift, is to start drilling this system. If we look at the area, it's a large area. You look at the map there, that grid there, you know, you're talking several square kilometres of outcropping veins. We see 3 main projects: San Juan, which is historically an old mine. It's a very large high-grade gold-bearing system, untested below about 300 metres. The Resurgimento vein, it's an extensive system for over 3 kilometres, previously mined about 100 metres or so. And the Yaito system, which lies in the eastern part of the area, numerous outcropping veins. Our team has been working on the ground here for 12 months. We continue to find more veins and we continue to advance it. But really, the next phase is this, to start the drilling here. We have a 5,000 metre drill program planned to start later this month. And that's really the importance. If we have a look at this, this is a picture of the San Juan mine. So as I said, this was a mine up to 1952, stopped production when gold prices dropped, but produced some amazing numbers, 500,000 ounces at 40 grams. And when you look at the region from what we see in the records, about 1.7 million ounces at over 50 grams. So, you know, it's a genuine high-grade gold system. And if we look at it, we look at the veins, you know, they're steeply dipping here. The main old historical vines, you can see there the mill, the settling plants, the San Juan vein here ranges in thickness from 1 metre to 5 metres. And we've, you know, basically it plunges off. And, you know, our idea was to come in here, start drilling this and starting to understand the structure of it. It remains open along strike, and only a very small fraction of this is actually being mined. So the more we dig around here, the more we walk across the ground, the more veins we find at surface. It's a genuine district. You know, from 127 rock chips along these veins, you're looking at an average of 2 grams, maximum up to 64. So, you know, it's a exciting system, but really, you know, what's the challenge here? It's never seen a drill hole. So it's quite remarkable to come into such a mature terrain as Chile, find a district like this that hasn't seen any modern exploration. So that's really the opportunity. We've completed some magnetics across the terrain, converted that into 3D, seen great responses, picking up the main veins here in the responses. So we know this system, you know, continues to go down at depth. You know, when we start drilling, it'll start unfolding this, unwrapping it. We're going to focus on the fatter, the higher grade veins where they're the thickest. And really, it's a rare opportunity to see such a continuous vein system that, you know, hasn't seen any modern exploration. Look around the district, you know, it's quite a hilly terrain, but only up to 1,000 metres. You know, this is the Resurgimento vein here. This is the sort of terrain you work in. System is over 3 kilometres wide now. It's strike length. We're continuing to map this and it continues to grow. Again, you know, we're seeing very good rock chips at surface, very good responses. You can follow the veins at surface, walk along them. That's you know, that's the opportunity we have here at Capote, which is very much our flagship project. I'll look at Cometa now, and I think this is quite a significant project too. We've just previously completed some build mapping here, and our excitement levels for this project continue to go up. Many in your room here would be aware of Hot Chili. We have the Productora resource here, the 2 licenses of Hot Chili, the recent Cortadera resource here. Our land sits along strike and along a major structure to the south of the Hot Chili ground. This is a significant land holding. It's a big area, it's 56 square kilometres. It's very early stage exploration, but what we're seeing is IOCG porphyry style of mineralisation here. And we're currently on the ground working here, advancing the project towards defining drill targets. But in the last few months, we've been able to, you know, get some outstanding rock chips. Again, very high copper. That's been the focus here. Multiple rock chips in the north and Perseus of over 1% copper. It's an interesting terrain. We're starting to pull this together. And the detailed work has found the good signatures of porphyry mineralization here. So we know that we're only kilometers away from Hot Chili, where they've had a recent discovery called Adara. And what we've identified here in the Venus area is a very large lithocap. So that's typically the signatures of the upper level shallows of a buried porphyry system. So we've got exciting. It was previously mapped as a different type of rock, but our geologists have gone in there, found the right rocks. So this is a very large area. So likely, you're looking at a system here that's got a porphyry system, veins coming off the sides, the high-grade copper veins. But again, controlling the district. We're in known areas producing very large resources. And again, no modern exploration, no drilling, no geophysics, no mapping. And this is the opportunity you get. It's interesting, you go to a terrain like Chile, it's considered to be very mature with these opportunities. And this comes from licenses, these licenses being applied for many, many years ago, being held, no exploration, and quite mature. And we'll have a look at our Garran project now. So Garran is our project in the north, over 300 rock chips here, multiple high-grade gold systems, silver veins also. But what we're looking at here is a very large land holding over 13 square kilometres. You're only located 40 kilometres to the east of Copiapó, but we're seeing multiple large. Yeah. Okay, so basically you're looking at a system here. We see at the Copacabana, a very large outcropping porphyry system. Again, undrilled. You can walk across the surface there, pick up the stockwork veins. You can have a look at it. There's all the classic textures you see in a porphyry. And what we're seeing around the edges of that system, around the edges, we see these very high-grade veins. We see a very high-grade vein here called the Zuluma vein. There's been some historical mining there, and probably other two porphyry centers here. So the focus here has been around some of these veins that sit on the shoulders or the caps of large porphyry systems. Again, very high gold numbers, very high silver, very high grade copper. Again, it's a very good opportunity. Can't reiterate anymore, no modern exploration, so that's really the opportunity. This is the type of terrain. This is from recent field mapping here. Again, samples along this vein are averaging over 200 grams silver, 25 grams gold, and 0.5 copper. And this image here of our geologist on the ground shows the vein outcropping. So you can see some historical mining through there, but again, no drilling, and this vein remains open. So a very exciting project and a rare opportunity to not only match the ability to put together large resources with copper porphyries, but also you've got those surrounding veins that offer that opportunity for grade and early stage development. So as I said, we're a modern exploration company. We're working in a very old terrain. It's been underexplored. It's highly prospective portfolio. We've been able to form some very good strategic alliances on the ground there. We're working with the people focused on exploration team. We've got a team that's delivered multiple discoveries. We've got the environmental permits in place now for Capote. Start drilling there, 5,000 metres, which we look to kick off this month and aimed at delivering quick results. So, we're all about turning the projects over and advancing them quickly and seeing where they go. So. Thank you. That's the Bastion story. We have a booth here if anyone wants some further questions, and I'm happy to go through the projects.
And thanks for stepping in for Rob as well. It was very well presented. Next up, we've got Rincon Resources, who are a copper gold explorer with interest in 3 highly prospective copper and gold projects in Western Australia, namely the South Telfer, Liverton and Kirikara, I want to say. Yeah, great. Rincon are currently drilling at its flagship South Telfer copper gold project, where it continues to define high-grade copper gold mineralization at the Hasties Prospect, being just 12 kilometres south of Telfer Gold. Please welcome Rincon Resources Managing Director, Gary Harvey. Cheers. Just forward, back, and pointer.
Okay. Welcome everybody, and thank you for having me here today. It's good to be outside of WA and in another part of the country for a change. Rincon Resources. We are targeting high impact copper and gold exploration projects. You can, this has been announced on the ASX today. You can read that at your own leisure. This snapshot of our company corporate. We've got 51.3 million shares on offer, 7.7 million market cap. Now that's at 15 cents. That's a little bit lower today. but that's sort of been the trend over the last couple of weeks. We've got $1.9 million in cash, got no debt, and we've got about only 2.5 million options issued. We've got a good tight top 20. They have about 62% of the stock, headlined by Gunsynd PLC as our major shareholder and Tanamera Proprietary Limited as our second major shareholder. Just heading into our projects. So as I said, we've got 3 strategic projects in 3 well-known jurisdictions. Our flagship project is the South Telfer copper gold project. These tenements surround the world-class Telfer gold mine. This is a 32 million ounce gold mine and continues to grow. And we've got a very strategic holding around that gold mine. And at the moment, we're advancing our flagship Hasties Prospect. This is an outcropping copper gold system, and we're looking to turn this into something of economic interest. Following that, South Telfer, our next major project is the Kirikara IOCG project. This is a smaller project that we have in the Kirikara area, which is the West Arunta province of WA. It's right near the West Australian WA border. Now, this has got very high prospectivity for IOCG copper, and we've got some drilling planned, and we're just waiting on some permitting to come through to allow us to get access to that project area. Our third and final project is the Liverton Gold Project. It's a smaller project we have in the heart of the Liverton goldfields, and we did some drilling here last year, and we've since reviewed that and determined that Liverton has probably not got the potential that we would like in our portfolio. So we're actually looking to move that on and replace that with another project in the not too distant future. I'm just going to focus mainly on South Telfer here today. As I said, this is our flagship project, and one where over 80% of our budget and our effort is going into mainly this year. So you can see here, we've got the Telfer Gold Mine. We've got Havron, which people will be aware of. And up here, we've got Winu. This is the entire Paterson province. It's tightly held. And this is our ground here in red. So directly along strike from Telfer, a very good address to be in. Zooming in a little bit more, this is a bit more of an overview. You can see that, this strike trend, Telfer moving down through O'Callaghan's, Trotman's, Ironclad. This is the main Telfer trend, and this goes straight into our western tenement area, which has had very limited drilling in the past. It is undercover, and this is an area that we'll be looking to get into the second half of this year. But our focus at the moment is Hasties, and I'll move into that now. So this is the Hasties prospect area. Now, Hasties itself is combined of 2 zones. There's the main zone and a southeast zone here and here. This stretches over a current strike of about 1.3 kilometres. The mineralisation, we believe, is related to an intrusive dome at depth. And what we're seeing is this copper gold mineralisation sitting up at an anticline fold hinge, which is a very similar style to Telfer. And we've got a combination of reef, stockwork and breccia style mineralisation, which is analogous to what we see at both Telfer and indeed at Havron. So we're already onto something here. This is where we're drilling at the moment. And, we've got a very good chance of turning this into something of value for the company. Outside of the Hasties main zone, we've recently identified the Frenchman's prospect. This is another copper gold outcropping system here, a little bit smaller, but yet there's only 2 holes that have been put into it. This is another target we will look to test a bit more this year. And then just in the last couple of weeks, we've also fleshed out this Curie Hill prospect, where very limited drilling's been done in the past by Newcrest Mining. They drilled a couple of holes into an outcropping gossan. I recently visited this gossan 2 weeks ago and was stunned to see over 200 metres of this very attractive looking copper rich gossan, and then finding that only 2 holes had been put into it with no follow-up was highly intriguing. So we've mapped the horizon for this Curie Hill effectively over 2.2 kilometres, where there's been copper mineralisation drilled here and intersected at the other end, but no work in between. So this clearly is another priority target for us, adjacent to where we're working at the moment at Hasties. In this image here, this is a photo of a diamond drill rig. This is an EIS co-funded drill hole. So the WA government will give us 50% a refund on our drilling costs. This drill hole here is a very deep hole testing a deep target that we identified last year called Hasties Deeps. And that sits directly in the middle here and below the Hasties main and the Hasties southeast zones. This hole was completed no less than 2 days ago. We drilled that to 660 metres. The planned depth was 500 metres. So we've pushed that on a little bit deeper than we wanted to, but we had to make sure that we went through the targets that we were planning to test, and we've done that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Just a snapshot. There's a couple of schematic cross sections, and you can look at this in detail a bit more on your devices if you like later on. It's really just to demonstrate what the copper and gold mineralisation looks like at the 4 areas that I've just highlighted. This is the Hasties main zone. So Hasties main zone, as I said, is an outcropping copper system, copper gold system. We drilled this last year. We followed up on some Newcrest drilling to verify the previous work and to help us understand exactly what it was. We did that, and now we're planning to extend on that. But essentially, the Hasties mineralisation at surface outcrops, and it's about 50 metres wide. The current length of that mineralisation is about 300 metres, and we've intersected mineralisation down to 150 metres so far, and we'll look to keep continuing to follow up on that mineralisation throughout the course of 2022. At the other end of the Hasties zone is the Hasties southeast. So it looks like it's on the eastern side of an anticline structure. So we've got reefs dipping off to the west, and this remains open along strike also and at depth. And then looking into the 2 other areas we've recently identified at Frenchman's and Curie Hill. Frenchman's is pretty similar. Like I said, there's only a couple of holes into this so far. This was an historic hole that was drilled by Newcrest back in the late 90s, intersected quite a few zones of rich copper and gold. We put 1 hole behind that just to see what was happening, and we've got a bit of copper up hole, but what was really intriguing was the gold that we intersected down here. So we think there may be some sort of sub-vertical structure there tipping off to the east. And again, this is completely open at depth and along strike. And Curie Hill was the newest of our prospective areas that we're looking to extend to test. This is the deep hole that was drilled directly into the Gossan at surface. So you can see here that it's gone straight through the Gossan, and they kept going, thinking they'd probably find some more, but they didn't. Newcrest walked away from that hole, but we can see from the interpretation that this mineralisation is indeed open, and this is all untested area below here. So that's an area we want to follow up on, and again, we want to extend that along strike as well. As I said, we've got over 2 kilometres of that mineralisation or that Gossan. We can trace that trend over that 2 kilometres. We just zoom in a little bit more on the actual Hasties prospect. As I said, we're currently midway through a phase 2 drilling program. This is following up on 5,000 metres of phase 1 drilling we did last year to test the immediate mineralisation that was known at Hasties main zone and the Hasties southeast zone. We've now gone back and we're looking to start to infill those 2 areas. So in the purple on this map here, you can see we've got several RC holes that we want to drill in between the 2 zones. And we've also drilled this deep diamond hole from this position. This is drilling to the north below the Hasties system, but it's actually testing a target which is about 300-400 metres below surface. That table on the left demonstrates the type of, or the length of mineralisation that we're actually been getting at Hasties. And, you know, these are really encouraging drill results by anyone's standards. So we were really pleased to not only confirm that the Newcrest drilling was indeed good, but the system is actually, you know, probably a little bit bigger than most people expected. Now, the next challenge for us is to join Hasties main zone and Hasties southeast zone, and hopefully turn this into a continuous mineral system over that 1.3, 1.4 kilometre strike length. So that's our challenge, and that's our strategy for 2022 and beyond. Now, if I just hone in on Hasties Deeps, I've mentioned it a couple of times now, but we'll go into a little bit more detail. Last year, we did some geophysical surveying. We did some gradient array IP, and that combined with a reinterpretation of the magnetics, we identified the magnetic surface magnetic surface feature below Hasties. Now, that was since confirmed to be a dolerite intrusion. Now, these intrusions tend to feed their way up through these sedimentary layers, and they can be a conduit for fluids generating mineral deposits, and sometimes they can't be. So we don't know if this is a good dolerite or a bad dolerite, but we had to test what we thought might be sitting around the contacts of this dolerite. So we know from some other deposits in the Patterson that mineralisation can be within and associated with these dolerites. And so we've aimed to say, okay, well, we know we've got the dolerite sitting below here. We need to confirm or try and test whether we've got something similar. So our main target surrounding this dolerite was not only to test the anticline zone directly on top of this dolerite, where we think, you know, coming up into when we hit the contact between the dolerite and sediments, we'll get a zone of brecciation at the top of that apex in this zone here. But also one of the other targets for us was to test this potential feeder structure or a fault. We think it's a fault. Now, we think that might be traveling subvertical, coming down here, and what we don't know is, well, if this structure intersects, you know, the dolerite or runs along the contact of that dolerite, then that's probably a nice little zone for mineral deposition. So we wanted to test both these targets with one drill hole. So we strategically designed this diamond drill hole here. We got EIS co-funding for this particular hole as well. And like I say, we just completed that hole a couple of days ago. And what I can confirm is that we went through both those targets, and you'll have more information about that hole probably in the next week or two when we collate all our facts. Oh, 1 minute already. Okay, so that's Hasties. Now, other than Hasties, we've got these two magnificent mineral trends along and in our package. There's the Hasties Grace trend. There's the Dolphy Western trend. We've got developed some targets along these trends from our VTEM surveys. We're looking to test those targets in the second half of the year with air core drilling. But I think one of the really big things here is at Western, historically, there was 8 metres at 3.85 grams per tonne with no real follow-up drilling in and around that. So we're looking to get in there and obviously try and figure out what that all means. But the biggest advantage, or the biggest part about this package, is that from the edge of this boundary to here is 26 kilometres of this Telfer trend, completely open and raw and untested. And if you take that 26 kilometres from this part here, going back this way, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 deposits on that trend. 5 you take in Telfer. So we think we've got, you know, we've at least got the potential to have at least one deposit in that trend going into our ground. There's been very limited drilling here because it does go undercover. Again, that's our challenge, is to start doing some undercover exploration on those trends in that Western tenement area. And just lastly, I won't go into our third project, Liverton, but I'll just touch on Kirikara. Kirikara is an IOCG project for us. We're in the Western province of WA. This is a really up and coming area. We're surrounded by big players, Rio, IGO, and we've got a really good prospect here at Bacali where we've got known copper mineralisation that was drilled historically by Ashburton Minerals and really no follow-up. So we've got a couple of targets here. We've got 2 diamond holes, 3,000 metres of RC drilling to follow up and test these targets. And really what we're trying to look for is obviously a deeper, richer source to the shallower copper mineralisation that was intersected in the past. So watch out for Kirikara. We're just waiting on ministerial consent. And once we've got that, we should be in there hitting the ground. I've run out of time, but thank you for listening. And please come by the booth and have more of a chat if you want to know some more.
All right, perfect. And now we're heading across to Brazil, where we've got base and precious metals explorer Alvo Minerals. It's hunting high-grade copper and zinc at its flagship Palmer project. The company aims to aggressively explore and deliver growth through discovery. Leveraging management's extensive track record and in Brazil, and following the 3 key phases of the exploration strategy, which is discover, expand, and upgrade. The Palmer project already has a 2012 JORC inferred mineral resource estimate of 4.6 million tonnes at 1% copper, 3.9% zinc, 0.4% lead, and 20 grams per tonne of silver. Please welcome Mr. Rob Smakman, Managing Director, Alvo Minerals.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben, for the introduction. It's a real pleasure to be standing here today. This is the first conference that Alvo's attended, and so I'll give you a little bit of background about the company and about myself. The name Alvo is actually Portuguese. It means target, and we focused on Brazil several years ago when we first came across this asset. We only listed last year, October 2022, and we raised $10 million. So let me tell you the Alvo story. In summary, we are focusing on high-grade copper and zinc in central Brazil. The asset that we bought from the government had a lot of drilling done in the 1970s and 1980s, over 30,000 metres of diamond drilling. We bought this asset in 2020, just before COVID hit, and then we sat on it until a point that we could get access, raise some capital last year, and now we're aggressively drilling and exploring throughout the district. We have an existing resource based upon the historical work that was done there on 2 targets called C1 and C3. That's about 4.5 million tonnes, mainly copper and zinc. There is some lead and silver associated with it. There is some gold associated with it as well. However, they never systematically assayed for gold. We're doing that now, so we'll be able to update the market with gold results as well as we go forward. Some of the drilling that has taken place already, we've completed about 7,000 metres of diamond drilling so far, and you can see some of the results that we've managed to come up with so far. High-grade copper, high-grade zinc. The widths and the depths of these intercepts are improving as we go, and we're pretty happy to say that we've confirmed the historical work that was being done, and now we're expanding what we've got. We've currently got 2 diamond rigs operating around the clock. We plan to continue our 10,000 metre diamond program. We will probably be drilling until the end of the year, and we'll double that program probably out to 20,000 metres in the next couple of months. So the real story about Alvo, in my mind, is we have the known resources, but then we also have the exploration potential. And this particular part of the country has never been explored systematically, and it's been idle because it's been in the government hands for over 40 years. So what we've done is we've accumulated land around the known deposits, and we've now got over 500 square kilometres, excuse me, pegged within the same belt of rocks. So we see the upside of this particular project, not just the drilling that we're doing now, but it's the potential to build on those known resources and find new ones, because this style of mineralisation does tend to cluster. We've got cash, we've got a really tight corporate structure. a really experienced management team that have got a lot of experience and time in Brazil. And the project itself is located in an area that has to be the envy of many places in the world in terms of its infrastructure. So I'll touch on all those points. In terms of the company itself, we have about $7 million in the kitty. We're capped at around $29 million at the current market price. And our main shareholders include Sprott, Paragon, an institution out of Melbourne, and the RCF Opportunities Fund out of the UK, the USA. But over 70% of our shares are locked up with institutions, the board, and those major players. So that it's quite a tight structure. And what we really need is mums and dads and retail investors to get involved. Myself and Bo Nichols are both geologists. We've both lived and worked in Brazil for many years. Myself over 10 years, and Bo around the same time. And Graham is a lawyer who keeps us on the straight and narrow. So very simple structure, and yep. Okay, in terms of the country, in terms of the prospect, we're right in the middle of Brazil. So we're not in the Amazon. We're north of the capital city of Brasilia, and this is the start of our tenement package. The known deposits that were drilled by the government are called C1, 2, 3, and 4. Quite original names. We've maintained that nomenclature for now. Of those, we own C1, 3, 4, and 5. C2 is not owned by us. So we're drilling currently, and we have resources on C1 and C3, so on the two extremities of the project. As I mentioned earlier, VMS-style targets, they tend to cluster. And so what we're seeing at the moment, these are the deposits that were found in the 1970s by the geologist mapping on the ground because they outcropped. This whole belt of rocks that extends for about 60 kilometres from north to south, and we've got some additional tenements that we're applying for at the moment, is prospective for the same style of mineralisation. And when I put that in context to the rest of the world, you're going to see how large the opportunity is for a junior company like us. Historically, they did a lot of drilling. They did a lot of metallurgical test work. I can show you some of the rocks, some of the drill holes. If you come to the booth and give us a visit, it's some quite spectacular, the actual drill core itself. One of the real keys about finding the neighbouring or the new deposits is using VTEM. And we have a survey across most of the tenement package that has highlighted multiple conductors, which are not outcropping, which are potential targets for us to go and drill. In terms of infrastructure, as I mentioned, we're just north of the capital city, Brasilia. We have a train line nearby. We have power, water, a nearby town, bitumen highways to site. It really is an envious position in terms of its infrastructure. And more than that, we're really comfortable operating in Brazil. We know the legislation. We know how to deal with the government. We've got a really supportive, because we bought this from the government and they have an ongoing interest in terms of a royalty, they've been really strong partners with us so far. So we're really looking forward to moving forward on this project, and we think there's no red flags in terms of the infrastructure. This is the slide that I really want to focus on, because what I'm trying to do here is put this into context globally. So VMS style deposits have been known, they occur all around the world. They're most common in Canada. And in Canada, they produce, or they are really important sources of copper, zinc, lead, silver, gold. And when we take the area that we have under tenure at Palmaropolis, or the Palma project, and compare it to some of the main known areas within the world, and not just in Canada, but also in South Africa and those other places, these fields are so fertile, and these districts have so many individual deposits within the clusters, that what we have at Palmaropolis, which is currently 4.5 million tonnes, could just be the beginning. So what we're really hoping for is that we find something, a belt that looks like Noranda or Flin Flon or Kid Creek, which are tens, if not hundreds of millions of tonnes in resource. That's what we see as the opportunity at Alvo. But before we get in front of ourselves, we're focusing on the known targets. So this is the C3 prospect. We've been drilling here since October. We've completed 18 holes. Our first 18 holes, we hit mineralisation in, I think, 17 out of the 18. Not only did we hit the VMS style mineralisation, but we also found some supergene that hadn't been recognised in the past. Some of the results there are fantastic. 20 metres thick, 35 metres thick, 1.5, 2% copper, 10, 12, 15% zinc. And we're seeing that significant widths throughout this deposit. I think in terms of being able to read them, I'm sure when you have a look at on your device, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. But our best holes so far have been the deepest holes in that central zone. And that's about 200 metres worth of strike in that central zone. And those deepest holes, I'll show you a cross-section in a moment, really illustrate this is open at depth and this is a resource that will grow. In terms of long section and cross section, on the cross section here, you can see on the surface, we've hit a broad zone of mineralisation, which is in the oxide. It's called a supergene zone, lower grade, but because it's oxidised, it's easier to mine. It would be coming out in an open pit anyway. And then we step down and we've hit this consistently, this VMS zone, which is high grade as we go down. This particular cross section sits right in the middle of the ore body here. In the long section, and as you can see, that central zone, which is about 200 metres of strike length, is open at depth, completely open at depth, and our best holes are at the base. So 36 metres at 1.5% copper, 8.5% zinc, 25 metres at 2% copper, 14% zinc is an example of what the potential is down plunge. C1 prospect, so we've completed 18 holes at C3. We'll go back to that in a couple of months. But right now we're drilling at C1. This is the second prospect that has a resource on it. It's slightly smaller than C3 and slightly lower in copper. What we're seeing at the moment in our drilling is that it looks like it's got higher lead and higher zinc than what the historical numbers would indicate. So we're busy here at the moment. We've completed about 8 holes so far. As I said, we've got 2 rigs drilling. We intend to be to continue here for another 2 months before we send the rigs back to C3, excuse me. The real key with understanding the potential at C1 and C3 is geophysics. So before Christmas last year, we completed a fixed loop EM survey across C1, across the southern portion only of C1. And what that showed us was a continuous conductor, 1.3 kilometres in strike length, that extended the mineralisation below the known JORC resource that we have here by hundreds of metres down dip. So we're busy testing those down plunge locations now, and we'll be stepping out quite aggressively as we go forward. At the moment, we have both the fixed loop equipment and the downhole equipment in transit to Brazil, and we'll be using that routinely with our own team to follow up on this particular target, but also to target C3 and our extension and our other prospects as well. We see geophysics working really closely hand in hand with the drilling to help us expand, extend, and hopefully discover new prospects. In terms of the regional potential, we managed to take all of the historical information, condense it down, and combine it into a series of exploration targets that we'll touch on a couple of them in a moment. But in this package, what we're seeing on the left-hand side is the VTEM survey that was flown 2008. What that's highlighted in those little green dots are conductors that our geophysicists consider to be really highly prospective. So we'll follow those up, but we'll follow that up with fixed loop surveys on the ground, geochemistry, mapping. We'll do the proper geology. We'll progress these targets as we go. And as we get results and as we start to firm it up, we'll start stepping out and drilling some of these targets as well. This is one example. This is called we call it C1 North or JS43. It's a target that sits to the north of C1. So C1 itself has got a strike length of about 1.2 kilometres. Those drill lines are at 100 metre spacing, and that's where they have the 1.8 million tonnes that we talked about just earlier. But about 600 metres to the north, we have this new target. It is a conductor. The 2 holes that were drilled here by the government back in the 1970s had disseminated mineralisation downhole. So we know it's a long strike. We know it's a conductor. This looks like a really hot target for us to go and start with. And we'll We'll put a fixed loop survey across here. And if we get a conductor that we can map, we'll drill it and we'll hopefully make our first real discovery. Another quick prospect, which we're quite intrigued by, this is C3, obviously on a big, large scale. There's a small conductor associated with the mineralization, but there's a big conductor that sits over here to the west. We're not sure what that is. It could be lithological, it could be a massive sulfide. We are going to test that. We'll test it with fixed loop survey across it first, and then if it does come back, we'll drill it and we'll have the rigs on there very quickly. One last comment, I'm getting to hurry up here, but we have another prospect to the south, a little project to the south over a layered mafic, ultramafic intrusive. This is a project that has, we call it Canabrava. It's prospective for nickel, copper, cobalt, and platinum group elements. This is similar to the style of mineralization that we've seen at Chalice in WA. It's been a very famous discovery. But this prospect is not just a pipe dream. It sits along strike from two of the largest nickel mines in Brazil, areas that have been mined for nickel by Anglo-American and a company called Nexa for the last 50 years. So they sit about 40 kilometres to the south along the same group of rocks. So we know that the prospect is fertile. We know that this has got some interesting geochemistry across it. This is an early stage asset, but it's something that we're going to focus a little bit of time on this year. So in summary, the next steps for Alvo are as follows. C3, we've finished our first load of drilling. We're going to go back and do some ground geophysics as soon as the equipment arrives on site. Phase 2 drilling will follow immediately after that, where we step out and we try and expand the mineralization. C1, we'll complete the first round of drilling that we're doing at the moment. We'll continue our fixed loop to the north, and then we'll do downhole geophysics as well to try and really tighten up our drill targeting. The regional exploration will be announcing a program going forward, but at this stage, we're really looking at building our footprint within the district, and we'll continue with our technical studies. We're doing a metallurgical test work program here in Australia with samples we're sending over 150 kilograms of drill core from C3, and then C1 will come once we've finished our first phase of drilling. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Rob. Now, to close us out for the morning, we've got one more presentation and then we can all grab some lunch. So don't leave just yet, people. Coming up, we've got Astral Resources, who are formerly Anglo-Australian Resources, West Australian gold-focused exploration company with 2 key projects located south of Kalgoorlie. The company's focused on growing and developing its flagship 784,000 ounce, but closing in on 1 million, Mandilla Gold Project, and Managing Director Marc Ducler is here to provide an update to the Astral story. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks. All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this afternoon. I will try to be quick, given that it is about to head towards lunch. So at Astral Resources, we are a gold-focused exploration and development company. Mandilla, that's our shining star. It's grown to 784,000 ounces. We're out there drilling it at the moment, and we absolutely expect this to continue and grow over 1 million ounces. We've also got a really interesting tenement package at Fayetteville. That's got 116,000 ounces at the moment, and it's only 14 kilometres from the super pit. Our top 20 shareholders within Astral are super supportive. They believe in the tenement package and they believe in the management team. From a cash perspective, we have $4.8 million cash in the bank. We recently divested the Coonji Park Base Metals project, and that's yielded us $6 million in cash and scrip. So we have access to over $10 million in funding. So we're very well funded. This current management team joined Astral in January 2020. This is the same team that was involved in Egan Street Resources. At Egan Street, we took a project from IPO to fully investment ready. So all the feasibility studies were completed. It was fully permitted. And then we were taken out by Silver Lake Resources. They were mining that operation within 6 months of taking it over. So as a team, we know how to get a project from its initial starting point to development ready. Since coming on board at Astral, we've been absolutely focused on drilling out the Mandilla Gold Project. The projects that we've deemed non-core, we've had a look at them, we've divested them. That's yielded us $7.1 million cash and scrip so far. Now, on a board level, we recently strengthened the board. So we added Justin Osborne to the board following his successful stint as an executive director and head of exploration for Gold Road. So that gives us solid representation across the fields of geology, mining, and metallurgy. So we have the right technical expertise to develop Mandilla and take it through to production. As I mentioned before, Mandilla, it's our shining star of a project. In January this year, we updated the resource to 784,000 ounces. This is the third update that we've published inside an 8-month period. So it's 784,000 ounces at just over a gram. One of the features of Mandilla is visible gold. You can see a really excited core cutting technician. Top left there, or my left, your right. He's just seen some visible gold in the core. Good looking lad, rather expensive core cutting technician. So the reason we know there's a lot of visible gold in Mandilla is we've drilled over 15 kilometers of diamond drilling there, and we see visible gold in almost every diamond drill hole we have cut. So back to that previous slide. Given all the visible gold that we're seeing, we also see some exceptional high grade results. Some of our better hits, and I acknowledge that no one is going to be able to read that, but please have a look on the website or grab a pamphlet. 25 meters at 10.6 grams per ton, 27 meters at 8.5, 26 meters at 8.3, 42 at 5, 38 at 5, 32 at 5.4. There's, I think, 23 intersections listed there. They're all cracking intersections. There's a lot of high grade gold to be had at Mandilla. So there's 3 deposits so far here at Mandilla. Thea is the biggest, 658,000 ounces at 1.1 grams per ton. It's open to the south, it's open at depth, and we're also chasing a high grade opportunity on the western margin of the conceptual pit design. Iris is lower grade and significantly smaller, 115,000 ounces, but there is certainly a high grade component at Iris. We have a theory there and we'll be following this up later this month. EOS is the third deposit. It's a modest 11,000 ounces at the moment, but it's brand new. We're drilling here as we speak and it will definitely grow. So there's plenty of opportunities at Mandilla to grow across all 3 of our deposits. A few points quickly to make on the project. The resource is declared within a $2,500 pit shell environment. So all the resources we talk about sit within a pit shell that is economically viable. We have gathered enough data from a geotechnical perspective to determine a DFS level of study at Thea and a pre-feasibility level of study at Iris. So we're advancing that. And from a metallurgy perspective, and my background is metallurgy, the metallurgy here is fantastic. 70% gravity recovery, 95% overall gold recovery. So it is as simple as you can get a gold project to be. Offers very simple, low risk metallurgy. So last year we had RC rig, air core rig, and diamond rig on site. The borders were closed, resourcing was relatively difficult, but we were managing all 3 rigs. The downside is we actually kept our staff on the air core and the RC rigs, and we stockpiled the diamond core. So at the end of every shift, we'd grab the trays of diamond, put it into our yard in Kambalda, and that by the end of December, we had 3.5 kilometers worth of core there. To start the new year, we've busily been sampling that, cutting it, logging it, and getting it into the lab. So what that means is, as of yesterday, our last submission was returned late last week. As of yesterday, we put some results out. The diamond drilling at Thea, all 8 holes hit mineralization. We averaged 114 gram meters in those 8 holes. So we had some really exceptional results come through. This is the first section that I'll show you. I'm only going to show 2 sections on Thea. This is a geotechnical hole, MDGT07 pointer. So that zone there, 25 meters at 10.6 grams per ton. Was a fantastic outcome. That drill hole, we were actually looking to collect rock mass properties on that western margin of the pit. So we weren't targeting mineralization, but we were really keen to see what we might hit there because it's an area that's lightly drilled. So 25 meters at 10.6, fantastic result. As you can see on section, it's an area inside the conceptual pit design, but where the model at that time was predicting no mineralization. So it certainly highlights the high grade opportunity that we have at Thea. Next section, this section is actually 200 meters north of the one I previously showed you. Here, we're actually chasing a high grade hit that we'd actually previously got in a diamond drill hole middle of last year. Last year, we got 65 meters at 3.5, so a very broad high-grade intersection. This hole, we're looking to follow it up. That 65 meter hit was 50 meters north of this. We put this hole in 32 meters at 5.4. So we certainly managed to hit the same high-grade structure. And we're now getting to map this along sections over potentially 250 meters worth of strike. Again, when you look on section, the mineralization here is very modest, and now there's 32 meters at 5 grams per ton. Again, reinforcing our view that we can grow the resource numbers at Thea. So this western margin at Thea is historically lightly drilled. And the reason this is lightly drilled is that we actually have some access issues. There's 2 paleochannel pits that were mined there in the early 2000s, so it makes accessing that area a little bit difficult. The next diamond drill program that we'll be doing when the diamond rig arrives in the first part of this year is 4 holes drilled on a north-northeasterly orientation in an attempt to get in behind those historic pits and see if we can further map that high-grade structure. So what does that future plan at Mandilla look like? Look, we're big believers in Mandilla. We're confident in Mandilla, and so we're going to keep drilling. At Thea, we'll test this high-grade opportunity on that western margin of the conceptual pit design. In addition, we're going to do a tight space 20 by 20 meter panel of diamond drilling again in Thea to see if we can start to map these high-grade structures from section to section. This will help build our structural understanding at Thea and also help us to more appropriately constrain the mineral resource parameters. Now, if the results support us here, it gives us every chance of continuing to lift the grade and grow the resource. Actually, sorry, still staying on this slide. At Iris is obviously the other deposit at Mandilla. We have a theory here. It's in relation to a high-grade zone. The high-grade zone seems to be attached to the sediment intrusive contact. Now, in the area where we're seeing the high grade, there seems to be an offset to that contact. So potentially the high-grade mineralization is shunted in the same direction as that offset. So it opens up this northwest quadrant for us to drill. Those drill holes are planned and we'll be drilling that this month. And finally, at EOS, where we declared resources here for the very first time. It's a new discovery, it's early days. The first round of drilling was 40 by 40 meter panel of drilling. It hit high-grade paleochannel across multiple sections and along the same section. We're now infilling that with 20 by 20 meters to get a better understanding of where the paleochannel is going. Additionally, late last year, we actually did some regional air core. We were able to extend EOS to the southeast. We're now back there doing some additional regional air core, trying to understand the extent of this to the north and south. And finally, from a Mandilla perspective, there's a target west of Thea that sits, there's these linear belts of mafic to ultramafic rocks that sit between intervening felsic rocks of the Black Flag group. We did 2 lines of RC here last year. The first line didn't actually hit target depth because of water. The second line, we got 1 meter at 9 and then 12 meters at 3 on the same section. 7 lines of RC are now planned, and that'll be drilling as well as soon as the RC rig, which arrives this month. So now 2 slides on Feysville just before wrapping up. To set the scene here, we've grown Mandilla. It's now 24 million tonnes of ore and 784,000 ounces. We want to demonstrate a long-term successful gold mine and its own standalone processing infrastructure. So we fundamentally believe we need to grow our ounces and add more ounces. We're confident of our ability to add those ounces at Mandilla. Mandilla will continue to grow to 1 million ounces and then beyond. But at Feysville, we see this opportunity to generate several near surface, relatively high grade, supergene enriched deposits. Our tenement package at Feysville is a really good location. Northern Star's exploration team are our neighbours immediately to the north. This is 14 kilometres from the Kalgoorlie Super Pit, and our targets are sitting on a splay off the Boulder-Lefroy Fault. The Boulder-Lefroy Fault hosts the 70 million ounce Golden Mile, the rich St Ives gold fields, the Jubilee and New Celebration gold mines. So it's certainly a very, very good postal address. Again, at Feysville, we have 3 million tonnes, 1.3 grams per tonne for 116,000 ounces, and that's all hosted at Think Big, but there are other targets at Feysville. The 21 metres at 2.3 at Saintly, 12 metres at 6. Again, both of those from near surface. Saintly South, 4 metres at 50, and that's from 68 metres down to the bottom of the hole. Ethereal, 10 metres at 9, 6 metres at 10. Dalray with 6 metres at 9, and Hyperno's also got a mineralised intersection. We recently compiled all of our drill hole and geochemical data into one electronic database and then went out and carried out magnetic and gravity surveys. The image that's on the left of screen here shows a mag image with all the surface soils and the drill hole data. There is a lot of gold mineralization here at Fayetteville. We have a fantastic starting point with a solid database and a really good geophysical data set. So we packaged all of this up, gave it to a geophysical consulting group, and they came back with 19 targets that they've identified on this tenure. They're ranked based on structural complexity. They've looked at those locations relative to other gold occurrences on our tenure, and then looked at the existing deposit styles within the region and assessed those targets against those for similarities. So a really good starting point, 19 targets. The other thing that's fantastic for us at the moment, the WA border has recently opened up. We've straight away recruited some additional geologists from the UK. It's a good hunting ground for us. I think 4 of our 5 geologists are from the UK. So now for the first time in a long time, we're in a position to be able to plan and execute a drill program at Fayetteville whilst we're still drilling at Mandilla. And that's certainly our plan for next year. So quickly, all of this on a page. At Mandilla, we're drilling. We will be for the next 3 to 4 months, air core, RC and diamond. We are planning drilling for Fayetteville. We'll look at a Mandilla mineral resource estimate towards the middle of this year and another update at the end of the year. Fayetteville drilling by the middle of the year and a mineral resource update at Fayetteville by the end of 2022. In the background, because we are looking to develop a gold mine, we'll continue to do all the long lead technical studies to support a study. So that means geotechnical work. We've got another round of metallurgical test work happening at the moment, hydrogeology, the geochemical work for tailings dam and waste dump design, amongst a raft of other assessments that are necessary to support a study. As well as a focused exploration and development team, we are constantly looking at how we can ensure we have enough ounces on the ground to build a successful mine long term. And as a result of that, we'll also look regionally and strategically to see what opportunities exist in our neighbourhood. Once again, thank you very much. Very patient listeners, given that it's lunchtime. So to wrap this up, Astral, 2 fantastic projects. We've demonstrated the ability to rapidly grow the resource within a short period of time. There is a management team that has successfully executed this before, and our intention is to do that again. The board is technically strong. All 3 mining disciplines are covered, and we are well financed. We haven't raised cash since September 2020, and we have access to over $10 million worth of funds. Thank you very much.
No, it's great. Thanks very much, everyone. Time to take a break for lunch. So we'll be kicking back off in about 40 minutes at 1:30 for another afternoon session with about 6 companies. Look forward to seeing you then. Cheers.